always dreamt of having my own homemade wardrobe, but more than that, I dream of pinafores. That's right, today I'm making a pinafore. I sketched out 2 designs for this pinafore, one with a purple pinafore and a silver shirt, and another with a silver pinafore and a red shirt. But I already used the silver fabric to make the silver shirt, so I can no longer use that to make the silver pinafore. So today I'm gonna be making the pinafore out of the purple fabric. And this purple fabric is actually a really nice medium weight woven fabric. I think it's actually a denim, but I'm not entirely sure because my sister gifted it to me years ago. But it's a really nice fabric and I think it's gonna work really well for my pinafore. But before I get too far into this, I just want to procrastinate a little bit because I've already been procrastinating a lot on this project. I saved my pinafore for the very end of my capsule wardrobe. I'm only gonna have one more piece left after this one because I just haven't had a solid image in my head of what I want this pinafore to look like, and I'm not terribly happy with the 2 designs that I already created and sketched out. Over the last few months, I have been scouring the internet for different styles of pinafores, and I learned that there are 2 major types of pinafores. There are pinafore dresses and pinafore aprons. And my original sketches were pinafore dresses, but I'm throwing that out the window. I'm gonna make a pinafore apron for this project. All that means is on the back side is gonna be open. I also really love the idea of doing the crosses on the back. So I'm gonna do a crossed back pinafore. And that's where I got stuck in my design process about a month ago. So instead of jumping into this project, I decided to work on a different one. You probably guessed it, it's this dress I'm wearing. If y'all aren't familiar, I started this dress back in December of 2024. And I didn't like the dress initially, so I put it on this rack for several months. I ordered some yarn online and decided to crochet my own lace, which is very cotton candy color and very bright and bubblegum color. Not really my style, but I think it works well for the dress. And frankly, it gives the dress a finished vibe, and I can finally say this dress is finished in September of 2025. And I didn't realize until I finished this dress 2 days ago how much creative headspace I was giving to this dress, specifically to all of this lace that I crocheted. And then, after I finished this dress 2 days ago, last night, magically popped into my head what I want to do with my pinafore, exactly how I want to construct it, and I feel today like I'm finally ready to make it. So I just wanted to say, I don't think people give procrastinating enough credit, because sometimes if you use your time well, if you procrastinate in a constructive way, sometimes procrastinating can be good for you. But I think I've probably procrastinated enough. So let's go make a pinafore. Alright, so drafting the pattern for this pinafore is pretty simple. I started with making a bib on the front. And I folded that piece in half to match both sides of the pattern piece. And then I drafted what I'm gonna call the skirt portion of the apron. This piece starts at the bib and will connect on the side seam to the back. I tapered an angle over the bust down to the side seam. If I do it this length, it'll be just a little shorter than this dress I have on, which I think is a good length for an apron. I'm drafting this with a little puffiness here, because since it's an apron and it's going to be worn over clothing, I need it to be a little bit loose. Then I created a strap for the back that connects from the side seam over the opposite shoulder to the bib in the front. This piece will give me that crossed back. And frankly, going with a simpler pinafore apron design is going to make sewing this project probably pretty quick and easy to make. Oh my goodness, this is so much simpler than my original plan, and I would not have thought of this last night if I hadn't just finished this dress and gotten all that headspace out of the way. So all this is going to need to take for construction is I'll need to make 2 of these front pieces, put a seam down the front, put a seam on the side, and put a seam to connect it to the bib. Other than that, this could be like a button or a clasp, and like everything else is just very, very simple. That's all it's gonna take. And I extended the strap down to the shoulder a few inches when I cut out my pattern, because I feel like that's going to be the one spot where an alteration might be necessary. Well, that was dumb. I haven't done a PSA in a while, but if you're using a rotary cutter, remember to always cut away from yourself. Nicked myself pretty good while I was cutting out the bib for my pattern, and that ain't ketchup. Fortunately, it's not as bad as it looks, but I will be wearing a band-aid for the rest of the day. So before I get too far into this project, I need to do some sewing machine maintenance because I don't think I have done anything to clean out or oil my machines since I switched into this white thread, cream thread, which was back in like January, if I remember correctly. So it's been almost a year. It's been like 9 months. My machines are skipping stitches and I can kind of hear some grinding in the gears when they're sewing. So if you don't do sewing machine maintenance regularly, you should, and I definitely don't do it enough. It's been almost a year since I oiled and cleaned out my machines, and I sew very frequently, so that's not long enough. You should clean and oil your machines like every 10 hours of sewing usage, which I know most of us go over, but I'm gonna just remind you guys with a little bit of cleaning myself. So basically take your machines apart as much as they'll go and use a little brush to clean out all of the lint. It can be really tempting to use like a computer duster or canned air to like blow out all of the lint, but don't do that because it can blow it farther into the machine and damage the inner workings. Having all this gunk in your sewing machines is not good for them. Then you want to use a little sewing machine oil to oil all the pistons so that your sewing machine sews smoothly. This is just like getting a regular oil change in your car. Like, it's a machine, it needs some oil. The one thing I did not address is you're supposed to change your needles more frequently. I just sew with them until they break though, so do with that what you will. You'll get better stitch quality if you change your needles more frequently. I started by pinning together every piece except the bib. So the two front skirt pieces got pinned together, and then the two back pieces got pinned to the sides of the skirt. Then I took it to my serger and sewed down 3 seams. And then I ended up pinning my bib on at my sewing table and serging it down because it's a really simple seam. I also gave everything a good ironing before trying it on. I'm gonna take in the side seam on the bib and the skirt like 1 inch on either side, so it just sits a little more tightly around my bust. Back to the ironing table. It didn't do a lot, but it did enough. I'm gonna finish the edges with this bias tape. This is 1/4 inch bias tape, and yes, this is a 55-yard roll of bias tape. I don't know what possessed me to buy that much. It must have just been really, really cheap, like a really good deal on it. So yeah, we'll use a little bit, not enough, but I will use a little bit of this bias tape today. So the really neat thing about this pinafore is the entire edge is one continuous line. So I can use one continuous strip of bias tape around the entire thing, which I don't know, I just thought that was kind of cool and fun. At some point I stopped using pins to sew on my bias tape because it does have a little bit of ease and sometimes it wiggles and stretches underneath the presser foot. And so I just sew it on without pins and go freehand, and it's really nice and quick and easy. I'm like halfway done sewing the back of the bias tape like folded over on the seam, and oh my goodness, sewing with bias tape is such a long seam and I'm just dying. Not really, it's okay, but I'm trying to get better at different sewing techniques, so I wanted to try out this 1/4 inch bias tape, and honestly, it's not the easiest thing to sew with, but I do like the way it's making the edge, and there's like a little bit of puckering around the curved pieces, but I'm gonna put like a button or something when I attach it to the bib, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. And I did give my bias tape a bit of a pressing after I sewed it on. Then I crossed the straps over the back and pinned them onto the bib. I think I have 2 of these. Look at that. Are these not cool? I probably only bought 2 of these because these are metal, these are very heavy, so they were probably expensive. I like them. I've been waiting to put these on something. I even forgot I had these. I've had these so long I forgot I bought them. And 2 is exactly what I need. So we're going skulls today. While I'm over here, last time I cut my hair, I saved it so I can maybe make paintbrushes out of it. It's just those weird ideas I have. Yeah, I shouldn't breathe that in. Bakelite can be toxic. Oh, I'm poisoning myself. I'm gonna use these buttons on the underside to help stabilize that bigger button on the front and make sure my straps don't move around. But I need to wash these too because they've been kind of grimy sitting in the mason jars. Bam, they're washed. If you ever wash Bakelite buttons, you can smell them. Like when they get heated up, you can smell them. And they smell like a musty spice cabinet. That's Bakelite. Hi. Meow. I think I'm gonna sew these on tomorrow. But y'all wanna see Kojo? I'm sure he wants to see me. What have you been doing all day, huh? What have you been doing? You had the window open downstairs? You've been watching birds? You've been screaming at the squirrels? You've been chirping at the chipmunks? Is that what you've been doing today? You seem kind of relaxed. Seems like you got your energy out already. That's good. Today's button and pocket day. So I used a needle and thread, some purple thread, to sew on my buttons. I sewed the large skull shank button onto the front of my pinafore, over the strap and over the bib so that they would sandwich together. And then on the back side, I sewed on those Bakelite buttons to secure and strengthen that shank button on the front so that it won't wiggle or drape or droop or cause any fitting problems. I also sewed down the edge of the strap with a back stitch just to keep everything in place. I also redid that a second time with a back stitch that has a little space between the front stitches. I think it's called a half back, but I will double check for this video. Now it's time to make a pocket. You guys might have noticed I don't generally make pockets in my clothing, and that's because I don't usually use pockets in my clothing. If I need a pocket, I usually need my purse, so I just don't usually make pockets. But I think an apron would definitely benefit one. And I had an idea. I still have my little pattern piece for my bib, and I think this would be a nice shape for the pocket. Just make it like a little bit taller. Are you coming in, or are you just gonna sit there and yawn? Come on, get your ass in here, buddy. I didn't lock my rotary cutter blade. I need to go get another Band-Aid. I know. You don't have to say it. I already said it earlier. This was fun. This was a fun project to make. It was a fun project to show. I think the soap might have been overkill, but I wanted to show you guys just how much weight this pocket can hold with like the reinforced stitching and the design that I made for this pocket. And not just the pocket. This cross-back whole thing going on that takes the weight off your neck in a traditional apron and puts it onto your shoulders and your back, which makes this apron, pinafore apron, whatever you want to call it, so much more comfortable than the traditional like halter style aprons. And I didn't even realize that until I tried this on. I think this is the first pocket I have made in years, but it is the best pocket I have made in years. This apron I like, but I love it with the skull buttons. They bring it together for me. And frankly, the pinafore apron I ended up with is not too far off from my original pinafore dress design. I still had that crossback feature in one of my sketches, the little bib with buttons on the front, and frankly the front of my pinafore looks very similar to the front of my purple drawing. I feel like Anne of Green Gables in this outfit, but like the jewel tone version, and it's like, it's satisfying my like cottagecore fantasies, and it's perfect. I couldn't be happier with the way this pinafore came out. I also only have one piece of clothing left to make for my capsule wardrobe. It's gonna be a jacket, so if you guys have been along for the ride, it's been a long 2 years, I'm gonna try so hard to get my jacket made and to get the last video of the Sewing My Capsule Wardrobe series out to you guys by the end of this year. So I hope you're subscribed to my channel for when it drops. I hope you like this video. You can leave a like on the video if you like my pinafore apron. Leave a comment down below if you hated it, if you don't like it, if you think it's ugly, or if you're just jealous. And thank you all for watching my video, and I'll see y'all next time for my final, ultimate, last video of my Sewing a Capsule Wardrobe series. Okay, bye.